Hey, this is Fantasy Fling, DFS Army here, and we're doing another Battle Royale first look draft. We're going to hop into a Battle Royale draft here in a minute, week 10. But want to start with some of the game tiles, courtesy of dfsarmy.com's Domination Station. Of course, we will go over to the FanDuel side so we can get projections for players that are half PPR, just like Underdog Fantasy. But we're going to look first at some game environments that we may want to target. Can we identify a game like last week, like Cincinnati and Chicago, that absolutely went bonkers and, we can get a lot of fantasy goodness from? Or are we just looking for some spots where we think teams, are going to romp this week, are going to be, the stacks that you want to target? So whether you do, quarterback plus his pass catcher, or you do like a secondary stack, we want to find some spots that we want to target. Obviously, we'll get an idea, early look of projections, just baseline projections, and then what the ADP is doing over on Underdog Fantasy. As I was able to hop into one of these, we could take a look at that, see some good values, maybe some bad values, spots we want to target, spots we want to fade. So let's get into it. First off, we got the highest total. We got some good totals this week. I think several over 45 and, in several games that could really go off. But I think, the game of the week, the environment, nonetheless, is going to be Buffalo against Miami. So we have Buffalo with a 29.7 implied team total. Miami, they have already been bad defensively, and they traded one of their pass rushers. So that could potentially be a spot to target. I don't really expect them to be very competitive. They had a good game a couple weeks ago, kind of came down to life, back down to earth this past week. And I expect Buffalo to smash in this spot against Miami. So I'm all in on Josh Allen. I think he could run him naked. I'm trying to get a lot of Josh Allen this week in my drafts, in my DFS play. Also, James Cook. This is a really good spot for James Cook. Miami has been a team to target. They're actually, it's the fourth best matchup on the slate is they've been given up over 24. In fact, let's go to Underdog. Let's see what Underdog stats are for this, but I think they've been giving up about 24 points per game to opposing running backs. 22 points per game. So it's a good spot, and I like James Cook. Obviously, Khalil Shakir is in play. Dalton Kincaid's been very good lately. So those are kind of the sacking pieces. Other than that, I'm not really getting to any of the other options like Keon Coleman and whatnot. It's just don't think you really need to go there this week. Now, a couple spots that really jump out, and I would say, we kind of have obviously the Buffalo 29-point implied team total, and then the other thing is we have Detroit similar. I don't expect this to be very competitive. In fact, these game totals are almost identical, and I think Detroit is in a spot where they could do the same thing. They could pour it on Washington. Washington has been a team to target through the air. Their run defense has been pretty good, so they've been more of a pass funnel. I think Amon-Ra is a guy that we're going to be looking to target this week. Goff stacks will be in play, Jameson, Laporta. Obviously, though, anytime there's a team total this high, especially with Washington on the other side, being without Jaden Daniels, I think this game could be very non-competitive, and the running backs will always be in play in that type of scenario. So Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. This is the other spot where I'm not trying to target game stacks. I really want team stacks. I want Detroit players. I want Buffalo players. I'm not worried too much about bringbacks. That said, I think on the Buffalo side, I'd be more interested in a Waddle bring back, maybe a naked Josh Allen, but a Waddle bring back. But if it lines up in the draft, for sure, I'm not trying to force it. Now, let's look at some game environments that could shoot out. I think one that really stands out is the New York Giants and Chicago Bears. We already saw it last week with Chicago. They have not been good defensively. In fact, they were terrible defensively, but Cincinnati was even worse than they are. And then on the Giants have not been very good defensively. So the Giants have been a team that you certainly can target. They give up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers. Yeah, 29 points per game. Chicago, 31 points per game. I know Chicago has a better defense, and the Giants are a team you can run on. So this game does have a lot of shootout potential. I think Dart is a good play this week. I think Caleb's back, and actually Dart has the best matchup on the slate for opposing, as far as allowing opposing points, points to opposing quarterbacks. I think Dart has the best spot here. But I like Caleb's side, favorite quarterback at home. I think this game could provide a lot of goodness. Now, a couple other game environments I like, kind of just for a first look, Baltimore versus Minnesota. I expect Baltimore to really keep their foot on the gas. They basically need to win out to make the playoffs. Maybe they can lose once, but I think they really need to win out. I think this is a good spot against JJ McCarthy. They're favored on the road against a Minnesota team that has not been the team that they were last year. Buffalo is getting healthier. I like Lamar. I like Derrick Henry. Obviously, Zay Flowers could potentially be in play. Mark Andrews. But I'm really just focusing in on Lamar and Henry in this matchup this week. Don't love the other side too much, but obviously, Justin Jefferson's always in play. It's actually a good matchup for the running backs, but what are we going to get? Like, I don't really want a timeshare with Aaron Jones, especially banged up Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. But if Aaron Jones sits this game, this is a good spot for Jordan Mason. So I had some interest there. And then last game of the week, the Rams against the 49ers. It would be nice if we can get a little bit more of a healthy 49ers team. Maybe we get Brock Purdy back. It seems like Pearsall's not going to play. He's going to miss another game. It doesn't look good. But obviously on the Rams side, the 49ers are very banged up on defense. So this bodes well for Puka. It bodes well for Devontae Adams. Kyron, Matthew Stafford. Like, this is a really good setup spot. I don't love Christian McCaffrey as much this week. I think this could be a bad game script for him against a really good Los Angeles run defense in a game script where they could be trailing. So I'm more so going to lean on the pass catchers this week as opposed to taking Christian McCaffrey in a lot of my drafts. I would prefer George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, those pass catchers in that offense. But I really like the Rams side of this one. We'll see if San Fran can keep it competitive. All right. So let's look at the ADPs real quick, and then we'll hop in a draft. Christian McCaffrey, like I said, he's projected as the top guy on the board right now. And, that makes sense. Let's see what we got on our baseline projection. That's kind of just what I was talking about. Like, when you look at these projections, Christian McCaffrey is not projecting as the top fantasy point projection this week. We got baseline, both Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry look to be projecting higher. Just the early projections without DFS Army putting our actual projections in which is what we normally do on a Wednesday. So I'm probably fading Christian McCaffrey at the 1 spot. And, he'd be a guy I'd take in the first round, but I'd probably take him, 3rd, 4th. I like Gibbs. I like Cook, Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, I would rank slightly higher than JSN, but JSN would be certainly a good pick as well. And then I like Amon-Ra. So, I think what I would probably do, and we'll hop into a draft and we'll see if this comes to fruition, is, I'm comfortable taking any of these wide receivers, Puka, Amon-Ra, JSN, and with my first pick. Like, I don't think it's an obvious like running back smash spot this week with your first overall pick. The first couple picks last week, it was like I took CMC every chance I could get, and there were where there's some really good spots. Like I know with Jonathan Taylor has been some absolute smash spots, and he smashed in those spots. But it doesn't set up that way for running back this week. So I would be fine going off the board and going with wide receiver, coming back, getting a Rico Dowdle, getting an HN, getting a Henry. I think that would be a sharp way, certainly, to play this week. Josh Allen, for me, is the top quarterback on the board, which you could certainly make a case for Lamar Jackson. That game probably would be more competitive than I think the Buffalo-Miami game. So I think that favors more James Cook than it does Josh Allen. But we've also seen Josh Allen beast in these spots before. So, after the first round, it's kind of Allen, Lamar, Dowdle, Justin Jefferson, obviously. He always is going to have some consideration, specifically when they are pushed by another team, which is going to have been happening a lot for Minnesota this year. McBride with Brissett getting the start is the top tight end on the slate. It's not even close because Bowers is not on this slate. So love McBride, and then it's kind of wait at tight end if you don't get McBride, because you can get Kittle in the third round. Devontae Adams in another good spot. Igbuka, out of sight, out of mind. Now going in at the end of, the beginning of the third round. I don't hate Kyron. It's such a good spot for Kyron, but the problem with Kyron has been his workload. He's losing carries to Corum. But last week he got 25 carries, actually. So, you look up and you see Corum getting all these carries. And if it's that type of game script again where they're just crushing San Fran, then yes. But San Fran is not New Orleans, so I don't see that happening to the degree that it did last week. This would actually be a really good spot for Nico Collins if we got CJ Stroud back, but I just don't trust Mills against Jacksonville. Bucky Irving, is he coming back? I feel like he's still a couple weeks away. I could be wrong on that. Jalen Waddle, the volume will be there. Love Dart at this ADP. Dalton Kincaid, I love him at this ADP. He's been really involved this year, looking really good. Adunze, stud coming off a dud. People are pissed off. It's a good spot. 26. I'm going back to him. You got to have a short memory in DFS. It's like, in some ways, it's like playing quarterback in the NFL. Through an interception, got to forget about it. On to the next play. DFS, someone totally bombs. Forget about it. On to the next slate. Were they involved? Was it fluky? That sort of thing. Were they out there running a lot of routes? Those are things we got to obviously wait and see on. Colson Loveland. 31. ADP of 31. Is he going to have another big week? I don't know. We saw a lot last week from him. He's top 10th overall pick. Very talented. I would expect Loveland to continue to be more and more involved. So I would go back to it. I don't think it's chasey at all. Not with that type of talent and not in this game environment. And there's not a ton that I see here. Is Swift going to be out? I would love Kyle Monangai at 33, and maybe it's worth taking a shot here in that good spot for him. Let's see some scroll down plays potentially at the end here. Marvin Harrison, I did a draft and, I wanted to take him and then ended up not taking him. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be available in the last round, and it's a pretty good matchup. So I think we could definitely go there. Sam Darnold has been hot. I would actually love, you could obviously get JSN. You could stack him late. You can even do, you get Marvin Harrison. You get Darnold in the last round. Is Shaheed going to play this week? I don't know, but that would be interesting. Khalil Shakir, last round pick. Probably won't go drafted in a lot of drafts who you could start with, or you could stack with Josh Allen. And then Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, Theo Johnson, that's a good late tight end pick. Jameson Williams in a great spot. Same thing. We just have not seen the big game from him. Maybe it'll be a Jameson Williams week in Battle Royale. So, speaking of, let's hop into a draft. All right, so it's looking like this is starting right away. We're going second. Love that for us. When we look at the projections again, Gibbs, top projection on Slate, Derrick Henry. I wouldn't be opposed. And then, this is kind of surprising. Jefferson. And this is kind of like, these are baseline projections, like I was saying earlier. I know when it's all said and done, when we put in our projections, and then when we get the prop projections from, the prop market, Puka is going to be higher than Justin Jefferson. I just know he is. So that's one I don't trust. And Puka, from all accounts, I think he's going to play. So I'm going to check my league and see the notes on Puka. I'm pretty sure he's projected to play in this game. Going for a scan on his ribs. He could have come back into the game, but they're being overly cautious with him. Optimistic. Be ready for the game. Yeah. And it's a divisional game. They need to win it. I'm just going to take Puka here. Like I said, I don't feel like incredibly confident about the running backs in the first round this week. I think you could poke holes in a lot of them. James Cook, like at ADP, is probably my favorite. But I like being able to take Puka there. And then, wow, this one was going quick. I can get HN. I can get Henry. I get one of these guys right away to pair with Puka. Okay, and that's good. I probably prefer Henry anyway. We'll see what gets back to me. Well, do I just take Josh Allen? I think I kind of have to. I mean, I'm at 14, Josh Allen at ADP of 9, and he's still on the board. Like, just scoop that value up. I got a guy who could finish as the quarterback 1 on the slate, a guy who could finish as running back 1 on the slate, and potential wide receiver 1 on the slate. So I'm liking the way this draft has started. I would like to get another. Maybe I can stack Kincaid with Josh Allen. I'm curious. I'm guessing that one of the wide receivers will make it back, either Flowers or Waddle. What I like with Waddle is I expect Miami to be throwing a ton. And he is the wide receiver 1. So, God, so many tough decisions. I think I take Waddle here just because, I have that correlation now. So I don't have to look for other correlation. If Kincaid doesn't make it back, that's fine. I can just go with this correlation. The Bills running up the score, and the Dolphins have to answer. All right, I'll take that. So Allen plus Dalton Kincaid with the Jalen Waddle bring back. Buffalo has not been like a super amazing defense this year. When we look at, I mean, they haven't been like a defensive target, but they haven't been an elite defense. Like they give up fantasy points to running backs. You can throw on them. You could definitely beat them deep. And Waddle's going to get peppered with targets, and he's a very good talent. he's beat tough matchups this year as the wide receiver 1 with Tyreek Hill out. Can't remember what week it was, but there was a team he was going against a pretty tough matchup, and he was one of the highest scoring wide receivers on the slate. So yeah, I like what that story tells. Let's get another running back here. Do we take a chance on Manungai? I don't know. I feel like I like the way this lineup has come together, and with the Allen to Kincaid with the Waddle bring back, where I got Allen, I feel like it's quite risky. What is the word on Swift? Could Swift have played? Do I go with like a David Montgomery? This is such a tough decision. This kind of would set up for, all right. This is the game environment that would set up for a Detroit potential smash. So maybe I should have just went with Manungai. And the problem is you really would want to go with Swift because Swift is ruled out. Then you can late swap to like a Manungai or a David Montgomery, as opposed to if you go with Manungai and then Swift plays and he starts and Manungai's the backup. As is David Montgomery, but David Montgomery definitely has a lot of touchdown equity. So I think that's a good spot for Detroit there against a Washington team they just smashed. Not bad for a first look draft. With I got my Allen to Dalton Kincaid and Jalen Waddle bring back. I got Puka Nacua as a one-off, Derrick Henry as a one-off, of course, and good spots here, good game environments, good matchup for Henry. David Montgomery, more the wild card, the last round pick, where I didn't love what was there, but he has these games a couple times a year where he'll have 2-3 touchdowns, and he certainly could get there in the last round. So that will wrap this first look draft up. If you guys like these, let me know. Hit that like button. Let me know who you are thinking about targeting this weekend Battle Royale drafts. I know it seems like a week that there's not like a lot of, because there's so many good players on buys. There's not like some spots that like really jump out to you where I think the field is going to be all over the place. So I think it's a good week to get a little weird with it. Let me know your thoughts on the slate. And of course, if you've never subscribed to DFS Army's channel, make sure you subscribe because we got a lot of DFS content coming your way each and every week. We got the Underdog Battle Royale, this one, but then we have DraftKings, FanDuel, we have showdown breakdowns, tournament tactics on Friday. So stay with us. That'll do it for this one. We'll see you next time.